turning a basic IKEA shelf into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. In this project, I show you how to completely transform a simple Kallax using solid wood and professional woodworking techniques. To figure out the exact dimensions and angles for the base, I first created a CAD drawing. For the live edge top, I used 2 cherry wood slabs from the same tree and arranged them to create a book-matched layout after processing. I roughly positioned the board first and then made the initial rough cuts. After checking the dimensions, I transferred the natural curve of the live edge to the board and used the bandsaw to follow the line. I used the table saw to rip the live edge of the second board, prepping it for the next stage of the build. I also used the table saw to cut the material for the base from additional cherry slabs. I marked out the individual parts for the frame and then cut them to rough length on the miter saw. I ran the pieces through the jointer and planer to square them up and reach the desired dimensions. To ensure a perfect glue up later on, I did the final pass on the jointer to clean up the edges. Next, I marked the positions for the dominos and cut the mortises. These loose tenons ensure perfect alignment and add extra strength. Then came the glue up. I applied the glue, brought the boards together and clamped them firmly, keeping a close eye on the flatness of the top. While the top was drying, I selected the parts for the 2 underframes, arranging them for the best visual appeal. With the layout set, I used the table saw and miter saw to cut all the pieces to the final length. To ensure every piece was identical, I used stop blocks for repeatable cuts. For the joinery, I relied on festool domino system again to create strong and precise connections between the parts. Before reaching for the glue, I did the tri-fit to check the alignment. Everything fit perfectly, so I went ahead and glued up the long stretches, clamping them firmly to dry. Now back to the live edge top. After the glue had cured, I removed the excess squeeze out. To stabilize the natural cracks and add a striking visual highlight, I prepared some walnut bowties. These will provide a beautiful contrast against the cherry wood while keeping the top structurally sound. To lay out the bowties, I used masking tape and a marking knife. I routed out the bulk of the material and then used the chisel to work my way precisely to the line. Once the fit was perfect, I broke the edges of the walnut inlays and glued them in. After the glue dried, I trimmed off the excess with a handsaw. I then routed out the knots and filled them along with any other imperfections using shellac. A great natural alternative to epoxy. I used a soldering iron with a white tip to melt the shellac sticks into the voids, sealing everything up for a smooth finish. Back to the base. I centered the rails and cross pieces up to 180 grit before the final glue up. This ensures all the hard to reach areas are smooth before the frame comes together. Now back to the live edge top. I used the sander to remove the excess shellac and level the walnut bow ties. Sanding everything flush really brings out the grain and shows how well the inlays fit into the cherry wood. I then sanded the entire top, including the live edge, up to 180 grit. To mount the base to the Kallax unit, I pre-drilled 2 holes for the screws. This makes the final assembly much easier and prevents the wood from splitting. I broke all the edges by hand to give them a smooth touch, and then it was final time for the finish. I used my homemade blend of beeswax, carnauba wax and linseed oil. To finish, I flipped the Kallax to screw on the base. I used anti-slip mat to hold the live edge top in place, but you can also use construction adhesive or screws with slotted holes to allow for natural wood movement.